Hello, I'm Tootight Lautrec, and welcome back to Glitterature Alley, your back street off the beaten path, under the radar, and beyond the pale place to sparkle up your senses as we talk about all things literary. And today, I'm feeling almost naked without my feathers and my too short skirt, and to be honest, nobody wants to see a naked drag queen. But I'll be taking applications in the link below just in case. So today we're going to be doing the Boujee booktube tag, spelled B-O-U-J-E-E or B-O-O-J-E-E, or more correctly B-O-U-R-G-I-E, because yes, I know it's supposed to be from a song, but it's the original meaning is from the bourgeoisie, and basically it means that if somebody pretends to be a bit more fancy than they actually are. And I thought, well, I may know a thing or two about that. So I thought I would do the Boujee booktuber tag, and we'll get right into it. And I've got all of my little questions written out, and my This Be the Verse clipboard, which harks back to the old days when I had a program called This Be the Verse. But let's get going. The first question in the Boujee booktuber book tag is, what is your average monthly budget for books? Now, there's an interesting question. A drag queen who knows how to stay on budget. No, really, that's really cute. That's a good one. Okay, question number 2. What's the most you've ever spent in a bookstore? Okay, well, spent. Let's just say it comes in spurts, if you know what I mean, and I think you do know what I mean. But I would have to say, unfortunately, maybe on one trip, maybe $100, maybe $200, if it's a holiday and I'm buying for other people, or if it's a particularly lonely time in my life and all I have are the wine bottles rattling around on the floor, and I think that maybe I could use a little more consolation, then I have been known to spend upwards of $100 in a single trip at a bookstore. Have I read all of those books after I've gotten home? Maybe in 10 or 20 years, maybe not. I may still have some of them on my shelves as we speak, but my intentions were good. Number 3. Are you willing to pay full price for a brand new release, or will you wait until you have a coupon, depending on where you're from, or if there's a sale? Well, to be honest, I'm not much for new releases. I'm not one of those people who runs out lickety-split to get the newest releases off the shelves, and oftentimes I had to be persuaded by my friends to read something that's new and up and coming. I prefer the classics, and I love used bookstores. So if I had my druthers, I'd be going to a used bookstore to get something, and I don't care if it's new or not. If it's within the past 5 years, I feel like I'm on the cusp of everything new, and that's good enough for me. If there's something, for instance, if a friend of mine has come out with a book, then of course I'll pay full price for a hardcover book and happily pass whatever pennies they get from the sale of their book along to them. Number 4, would you rather buy one new book or several less expensive copies, used copies? Well, I think I've just covered that. I do prefer used books. I prefer used books as long as they're not too marked up with other people's little thoughts and squiggles. But if I'm in a used bookstore and I do find one with a lot of squiggles and interesting marks or comments that I may not have thought about, then I will buy that, because sometimes it is interesting to see what other people's take on something is. And as long as it's not something that's completely new to me or something that I'll need to have a clear mind for with no distractions from stray marks, then I'm always happy with a used book. What do you think is a reasonable price for a new hardback book? Likewise a paperback, and likewise an ebook. And I would say, in general, I think $25 for a hardcover, $15 for a paperback, and maybe $5 for an ebook. Keeping in mind that most of that money, I mean, I don't know how much actually goes to the writer. I'll be finding that out shortly, because I have a little secret. I have a book coming out in the beginning of December, or rather, I have a book coming out under my more masculine pen name, and I'll make a full announcement about that sometime as it gets closer to December. But it probably will be in paperback, and it will probably be $15. And if I see enough for gum money from that, I'll be lucky. But more on that when it comes out. But I do think that $25 for a hardcover, $15 for a paperback, and $5 for an ebook will suffice. I mean, that's what I feel as a consumer. As a writer, I don't know, because I'm not as well versed as I would like to be yet in that side of the business. Number 6, is a signed book worth more to you? How about a first edition? Again, if a book is written by a friend, then yes, I would love a signed copy, because it's a friend, and I'm happy to have their hardcover book, and I'm happy to have their signature in it. But I'm not really one for hankering after stars and literary stars, and I don't really believe that that increases the value of a book. That's not value for me. A signature, even if it were, well, I was going to say even if it were Charles Dickens, I don't necessarily think I'd hanker after that. But if Jane Austen came up and I happened to find it on my own and didn't have to pay anything for it, then certainly I'd love a Jane Austen. But what can you do with it? It's just a signature. It's nice, but unless you're looking for books to sell for profit, then I don't really see the point. And that's not really why I buy books. I buy books to read them, and that's it. If there's a signature in the cover, that's great, but it won't make or break the day for me. What is your most valuable book, sentimental or actual? Again, the value in a book for me is not necessarily how much it cost or what it looks like. I do prefer paperbacks, and I like these days books with very big print. But I would have to say that this well-worn copy of my John Cheever, The Big Red Book of Stories, is probably my favorite book, simply because it's easy to hold, it's easy to read, it's easy to carry. It's quite nice. I like this orangey red cover on top of it. The design is quite simple. I'm a simple sort of drag queen, and this is my kind of thing. It's jam-packed with wonderful stories, and this at the moment is my favorite book, my favorite possession, because it's John Cheever and it's easy to read, and that's that. Number 8. Will you pay more for a cover or an edition you like better? Well, yes, of course I will. Because although you can't tell a book by its cover, I'd rather date, you know, I mean, I'm superficial. I can't help it. That's just the way it is. If I find something, I did have the smaller Big Red Book of John Cheever's stories, and it fell apart, and I bought another, and it fell apart again, and then I decided to get this one because it's a bit more substantial, and it's got orange in it instead of just red, and I like it. Likewise with all of the Penguin editions. If I happen to buy a Jane Austen and it's some other company that, you know, they'll have generally a nice picture of a girl on the front, and those can be quite nice, but somehow the Penguin with their black borders, they seem to know what they're doing, and it hits my spot. So yes, I will buy a book with a different cover just because I want to, because I'm superficial and silly that way. Number 9, what physical characteristics does a good quality book have? Well, I think we've gone over that. I like it to be paperback. I like it to be easy to read. I like it to feel good in the hands. The paper should be of easily turnable and nothing too fancy. And as I said, the Penguin Classics are top-notch on my list of books to have. Number 9, if you won the lottery, what bookish things would you do with the money? Well, now I understand that there's the Penguin Classics Library Complete Collection, which runs anywhere from, as far as I can tell, anywhere between $8,000 and $20,000. So if I won the lottery, that would be my gift to myself and my gift to any of my friends who would want it, because all the books that you want to read in the Penguin Classics format would be, you know, just nirvana for me. And then, of course, with the rest of the money, I'd get my castle on a hill on the ocean, and you know, maybe a manservant to dust here and there, just to keep everything fresh and dewy. And now the bonus question. Give us an image, actual or mental, of your dream home library. Well, in fact, if you happen to see Professor Henry Higgins from My Fair Lady, tell him that I want my library back. The movie with Rex Harrison, that library that he has is just stupendous. And I happen to have 1 or 2 degrees of separation from that set design. I'll tell you more about that in a more private session if we ever meet. But Henry Higgins' library in the movie My Fair Lady would be in my castle on the ocean with the manservant dusting the shelves, and that's my dream. So if anyone has something like that, and feel free to call me up and let me know when I can come and pick it up, or when I can pack my bags and fly over and take possession, and I'll be there lickety split. So that is the Boujee Booktuber tag, and because it's a tag, I of course tagged myself because I am the drag laureate of the sub basement and the drag laureate of the Sonnetarium, and I tagged myself, and I hereby tag you. And I also beseech you to pay attention to all the wonders that are in the world. I'm Tootight Lautrec. Mwah.